Yep. So, yeah, a little bit of background on the trip that I did and relative to this event is um, John William Henry Ashley is directly responsible for the inception of the rendezvous system in the fur trade. He advertised for Ashley's 100 for 100 men to go trap or hunt beavers, they call it, in the Rocky Mountains in 1822. 1824, he not realizes, but he knows he hasn't resupplied his men. He hasn't gathered the beaver pelts that they have trapped to bring back for him to sell at market as his source of income. In 1823, General Ashley comes back from an expedition, and keep in mind, all this time that he's doing this, he's a congressman for the territory of Missouri, and he needs a rifle with longer range, better accuracy, and so he goes to Sam Hawken at the Hawken shop. He builds him a rifle, which he then carries with him in the next subsequent years before he leaves the mountains and gets further into politics, becomes Missouri's first lieutenant governor. Also, what I've recently discovered is that when General Ashley came back, sold his hides, became the equivalent of a millionaire in today's dollars, the very first person that he settled with, who he owed money to, was Sam Hawkins. So I'm sure it wasn't just for the rifle. I suspect that Sam Hawkins probably helped pay for his equipment and supplies and everything to make that journey is my guess, but it's only an educated guess. I have no idea what else he would be indebted to him for. Um, but so that journey was General Ashley coming back from the first rendezvous. He knows he can't take his men's horses and ride from Southwest Wyoming, Flaming Gorge area all the way to St. Louis and back, because he'll leave his men without horses for 3 to 4 months, which is no good in the Rocky Mountains. So he borrows 100 of their horses. He rides north to Fort Smith, Montana, with the hides. From there, he shoots buffalo, and they build bull boats like going up in the museum. They float that down the Bighorn to the Yellowstone River to the Missouri River, where he meets up with General Atkinson, who he had served under in the War of 1812. And Atkinson's on keel boats like these, going up and down making treaties with the Indians. He throws his hides on a keel boat called the Muskrat, and a couple others, and he floats down to St. Louis and sells his hides. Well, we did that entire journey exactly the same way. This is how I packed my horse every single day for 30 some days, 30 miles a day of riding. From there, we sent the horses back like he did. We built a bull boat, and we had 2 catamaran pirogues, which we put together like 2 catamaran dugouts. Floated the Bighorn to the Yellowstone, got to the Missouri River, and believe it or not, a friend of ours, Bill Bailey, had on his bucket list as a master carpenter to build a keelboat. I don't know who has built a keelboat on their bucket list, but Bill did. So he built a keelboat. We met him in Yankton, and we did 900 miles down the Yellowstone River. And one of the things that I learned on that journey, just through day-to-day training for it and on the ride, is how to pack your horse for individual trekking. So this is bare bones. If I wanted to go out right now for, you know, a week, 2 weeks, whatever, I could do it with what's on here, except I would have to shoot game to eat, because you can only carry so much dried food. And they didn't carry dried food. They shot everything along the way. Horse went lame. They shot the horse, ate the horse. You know, it is what it is. And so with my horse, her name is Bubbles. She's a Mustang out of the Kiger herd in the Pacific Northwest. Um, Heavy Spanish influence, very strong. Great endurance horse. By the time we were done with the ride, all 5 other guys that rode with me wanted to buy her, and I'm like, nope, it's not for sale. But you learn everything has to be symmetrical. Everything has to be even in weight. Just like when you pack a pack horse, you know, the panniers on the side that hang off. On our pack horses, we had a period scale, and we would weigh those packs every single day, because they have to be even. And every day as you eat food, you use horseshoes, whatever, your packs get uneven. So you have to cross level every single morning. Otherwise, on a pack horse, on a horse like this, everything gets completely catawampus. And I have loaded her in the winter a lot heavier than this, because it was about 2 feet of snow on the ground, and I was riding into a camp, and I had things out of balance, and I had to dismount from down under here, which wasn't pleasant, and then take everything off, resaddle her, and put everything back on and balance the load. That's the only time I've ever had a load unbalanced and come off. But as you can see on here, Vanna White's actually be very good today. Everything on here is hand sewn, period correct to 1825. And on this side, I call this the working side. That's the side I mount from and everything. And on here, you know, the saddlebags, I go through those, the things I want to have access to right away. Water underneath the musket, which rides in a sleeve, or you can hold it in your arms, either way when you're riding. But on the back, we'll start with the back. I think she's going to cooperate and not move. On here, things are on here in order of how I would want to get them off and use them. So the very first thing, if you notice I'm rubbing her butt when I go by, is I'm not being fresh with her. That's letting her know I'm here. When you go behind a horse, you either go way away from kicking distance, or when you walk by, you brush them with your hand or your body, and she knows you're there. And by the way, I'm not an expert horse person. I'm not an expert. I don't train horses. I can't tell you a quality horse and what's good conformation, what to buy and what not to buy. I'm more of an operator, and I know how, and my horse and I are bonded. I know how to pack everything right, and we've ridden thousands of miles together, but I'm not an expert. The only thing I can tell you about buying horses, if you want to buy a horse, it's not about the horse. It's about who you're buying it from, okay? If you trust the person you're buying it from and you know them, everything else is good. If you don't know who you're buying from and you're just going off the open market, I wouldn't buy it. Both of our horses, she was gifted to me by a good friend of mine, and that horse we bought from a very close friend as well, and it's all about who you get it from. My brother bought horses, he didn't know who from. 3 years later, the horse had a known medical issue that the vet didn't dispose, and he had to put the horse down. So if you are going to buy a horse, it's who you buy it from, not necessarily what you're buying. So on here, the first thing off of here is my Métis coat, which is, you know, a brain tan coat, which isn't a whole lot of warmth in the wintertime. But I will tell you, in the summertime, it seems crazy to wear it, as heavy it is, but that is the best mosquito armor that you can put on. The mosquitoes in Wyoming and on the Missouri River here we experienced are every bit still as bad as they were during Lewis and Clark and what they talked about. They're miserable little rascals. So that's good mosquito armor, good windbreak, sort of okay in the rain. The next thing in the rain, which what I have on here, this is an oilcloth poncho, and that you want readily accessible for the rain, and that's right on top where you can pull that off. And on the saddle, after you pull that off and you tie this stuff back down, I have an oilcloth tarp that goes over the top of everything that stays on the saddle. So now when you're sitting on the saddle with the poncho on, your rain, everything rolls off and protects your blanket, protects your other ground cloth, and keeps everything dry. That always dries there. Then under here is a heavy wool poncho, same thing over the head, kind of a Spanish influenced poncho for warmth, and that's also my sleeping blanket. And this setup is good for, you know, probably 3 seasons. You get into colder weather and you want to carry an extra blanket, you just put it on over top of these 2 blankets for a saddle blanket, okay? And then, you know, it smells a little horsey, but you have another blanket. And then you can use your 2 saddle blankets for, oh, that's why she's fussing, I think. Okay, yeah, got it. Okay. And then you have an extra blanket in the wintertime. And then the last one is just an oilcloth ground cloth, which I lay out. It's about 7.5 feet long and 5 feet wide. That's a ground cloth. So you put down your saddle blankets, your ground cloth, and then you get inside your wool poncho as a blanket, and then your rain poncho over top, and that's how you sleep. Just flat on the ground. No tent, no lean-to, no nothing. On here, I'll take this off. It's a little Miss Antsy Pantsy. This is a trade gun. It's been cut off and it's decorated native fashion. And that's either in your hands or in the sleeve, carrying that. That's fallen off many times. It's been broken, as you can see, but it still holds up and still shoots really, really well. And then on top of here, let's turn you around, sweetie. Come on. Hey, come on. Good girl. Good girl. Okay. Back over here. Come on. Okay. Whoa. Whoa. So I have the 2 canteens. which come off, and they're balanced on either side. I'd start off with one 1-gallon canteen, but when that's on one side, it's super heavy. Your other foot's trying to offset the weight of that, and it hurts a lot. So I ditch that one, and I just go with 2 canteens balanced on either side. And then on this side as well is the picket pin, and I don't have the hobbles attached right now because they're over on the rope on the ground. So this is how you tie her up at night. You pound your picket pin into the ground. This one's pretty well worn and abused. It's hand forged. And then on the other end, outside, after we get done, you can go see the hobbles that go around her ankles. And this is tied to it, so it's just like a dog leash. And she's trained to stand on that all night long. She has no problems with it. He's trained normally with a dog collar, leather collar around his neck. That's how he's been trained, but he broke that the other day, so he's in his halter to keep him there. But that's the picket pin, so you have to carry that. And then for people that are, do we have anybody that rides here? No? One thing you'll notice about this horse is, about my setup on Bubbles is, her bridle is on over top of her halter. Modern equestrians will take the halter off, put the bridle on in the barn, go for a ride, come back, take the halter or bridle off, put a halter on, take them to their stall. When you're out in the wilderness, you can't do that. You do not want to lose control of your horse. So if you stop during the day, like we did for lunch, and you want to take the bridle off, okay, you still have control of her with the halter and your lead rope. So you can stand there and hold her and let her graze. And then this rope, when you're riding, just hangs off of her like that. So if you fall off or something and you got to grab that rope and get her, you got her and you got control of her. So that always stays on. And this is I handmade this one. This is a copy of a 1820s military halter, and this is another handmade by a friend of mine who gave me the horse halter. And the only thing on this whole setup that's not period correct, if you will, is the bit. But I know what I'm doing, recreating history. She has no idea. She doesn't know what year it is. She doesn't know why all this stuff's on her other than I'm in control and you're going to do what we agree to. But you want to use the bit that your horse is trained on. I have an original 1840 Smith Worthington bit, and Smith Worthington has been making tacks since before Washington was president, and they're still in business today. And I have an 1840 bit that they validated the year for me. It's a curb bit, and I tried it on her, and she hates it. So, you know, you can be all the period correct you want, but if your horse doesn't get it, it's a bad day. So I use, and what a lot of guys use, is what they're trained on. So then in the saddlebags, again, the working side, this is all the things that I want to get at right away at the end of the night. And everything I do in the saddlebags, the way I fold all that stuff and put it on here, it's the same way every single time. So I never have to guess, you know, where things are, and I can find them in the middle of the night. So when I open this, the first thing on the left that I pull out is my cooking pot. Okay, and this is all for 95 days I use to cook and eat. And it's a copper pot. It's a copper pot, and then I had a potter named Steve Sprinkle make a ceramic cup for my coffee that goes on the inside. So you make your coffee in the morning, you dump it in your cup, you drink your coffee, you make your oatmeal, you eat that. After you're done with your oatmeal, you make another pot of coffee, which is really coffee and oatmeal, and you use the hot water to clean the pot, and you drink your coffee, and you clean it and go, and there's a little towel in there to use to dry off or clean up your stuff. I have a little eating utensil kit, and that is a spoon that I've had for over 20 years, just a wooden carved spoon. I carry a fork, which I don't think a lot of the mountain men even bothered to carry, and I have a pig bristle toothbrush. And that all is housed in one of my daughter's early moccasins that I converted into a utensil carrier. Then I have my sewing kit. So you always, I have needle, thread, sinew, all kinds of things in there to sew, to repair tack, to repair clothing. And that's always on the working side. And then I carry a tin period document holder. So when you're out riding, I put my wallet, car keys, things like that, the modern stuff in there to keep it safe and dry. Last thing you want is to go back to your truck and trailer to load your horse and your keys are all soaked and they don't work and you got to use the dummy key and all that. And then a compass. So if I'm riding and I need a compass, I know where to reach back and which side to get it out of. And then I carry in the bottom of both sides is always different ropes and leather thongs and things to repair tack. And whatever, you know, and that's about it that's in there besides the compass. Then on the other side, come on, sweetie. Okay, whoa. Good. The off side. So this is the side. So when I did the 700-mile trek, this side, what we all had on our own individual horses was a basic subsistence for 2 or 3 days. In case you get separated from the big group where we had to pack horses and all of our gear, you know, you got to have a little bit of food with you. So in there was the elixir of life, coffee. And then I happen to have in this pack right now, probably about 3 or 4 meals of just dried potatoes that I can cook up. Okay, Missy, come on over here. Okay. A modern necessity, some toilet paper. And somewhere, oh, I must have taken it out. Or it's on this side. Let me see. Why are you being so antsy? Huh? Huh? What's your problem? Oh, there it is. Lye soap. And that's about it. And on the other side, in the bottom of the saddle bag, again, is just a whole bunch of scrap leather and stuff to repair tack. And that always just rides in the bottom. The saddle, I'll pull that off since I think that's what's bothering her. Hey, easy kid. She's being pretty good today, actually. So for those that have ridden before, you usually, if you've done a trail ride or anything, you're on a very comfortable saddle. My wife's modern saddle back there has cushion, and I don't know if it's gel or not, but it's very soft and squishy. This saddle is called a St. Louis style saddle. It was manufactured here. It's an 1825 style saddle, and it has just the tree, leather seat, and then the rigging for the stirrups and the cinch. And this is called a center fire rig. So this, if she gets sores under here, I can adjust these straps either direction and move the cinch forward or back to give her relief on her belly, which on that whole journey I never had to do. She's very, very durable. Hey, get over here. You can leave your buddy alone. He's fine. If you notice all the extra length in this cinch strap, because you never trim anything off. You never know when you need a piece of leather. And this strap, as well as the other one on the other side that never comes off, is the same length. Again, I could have used the excess on this one and the other side to make a collar when he broke that one, you know, on Friday if I needed to, but since we didn't really have that dire of a necessity. So the saddle, super lightweight, and it's covered with a buffalo hide. They call that in the day in a Pishamore. That's to make it more comfortable. Okay, doesn't do much. That's why you're cranky. And then I have a 3/4 blanket, saddle blanket, and then underneath that, her main blanket. And those get laid down. That becomes your ground cloth. Then you put your oilcloth down. You put these down, your blanket. your poncho, and that's how you sleep. And you get to smell like your horse all night long. And let's see. And then the last thing somebody reminded me yesterday is, what am I carrying with me? Basically, I just carry a big old knife that I hand forged out of an 1800s buggy spring. That's kind of my working knife for making steaks and stuff if I need to, if I do want to make a shelter or making sticks to cook meat on or something. I carry a small neck knife. That's probably 25 years old. I made that. It's a replica of a Great Lakes Native American knife, quill work included. We all know what that's for entertainment. Then down here I carry just tobacco, by the way. And then down here, this is a wallet. I have a spare folding knife in there. I have some period correct little pill bottles to carry modern medicines in and things like that. This is where they would carry their valuables. And then on the back side, this is my fire starting kit that's always with me. It's got a magnifying lens, flint, steel, and char cloth in it, and that's always on my body and always with me in case you get separated from your horse or the crew and you need to start a fire. And I don't carry an axe when I trek. I don't carry really a tomahawk. I think one of the most, for me, this is all I lived on for 95 days right here. That's it. This is everything. And to me, when you're in the woods and doing this kind of stuff, or even modern day camping, less is more. You don't need all of the camping gear that they want to advertise at Bass Pro and Cabela's or wherever. You don't need all that stuff. If you have all that stuff, that means you're spending a lot of time packing it, making it fit, you're carrying extra weight, and you really don't need it. I don't even carry candles. You can't get more light at night from a candle than you can from a fire. I never cut firewood. How many times have you seen people go to the hospital and get stitches from cutting firewood in camp with a hatchet or an axe or something? Why? Just burn it in half. Start a fire, lay it on there, burn it in half, and keep moving it in. Or stick the ends in, and as it burns, you just keep pushing it in. To me, cutting firewood is an absolute waste of energy. I'd rather be eating, relaxing, and resting and getting ready for the next day than chopping firewood. There's absolutely no need to cut firewood. And I don't carry anything to pound the pin in. When I'm alone, I just find a rock or a stump or something, a branch that I can pick up and pound it in with. You don't need to carry a hammer. And so after 95 days, I realized that I probably still, if I was in 1825, I probably wouldn't have needed the fork. The toothbrush would have wore out, and the knives, though, are imperative. You always want 2 or 3 knives, always, and then there's always the backup knife in here. If you lose all this stuff, riding or something, you have the backup knife. And that's in a nutshell, period trekking in 1825 and packing your horse. And probably everything you need is right there, and maybe a little more than they would have carried. I'm pretty sure. I do carry an extra quart for the canteen because horses will eat your quart. So you always need an extra one. Yes, ma'am. What's that? I don't need it. My campfire gives me enough light to do what I need. And they didn't have flashlights in 1825. Yeah.
Do you have a way to sharpen your knife? Or you sharpen them before you go?
Sharpen them before I go, and then if I had to find a rock or something. There are some guys that will carry a sharpening stone, but I did carry a sharpening stone in my bag on the 95-day trip. Yep. So that's good segue. That was everything leading into questions. Questions. Yes, sir. So I don't. I strike that. I do. If I'm going out, I have a tin with butterfly sutures and things like that. On the 95-day trip, the first segment, the horse ride, 35 days, one of our guys riding with us, a good friend of ours, Dixon Varner, is the leading equine stallion geneticist in the nation. He's now in the Veterinarian Hall of Fame. So he carried his surgical bag for the animals, which also sufficed for our surgical bag. Then when he left and took that with him, the next 2 segments of the journey, we did carry a modern first aid kit to make sure. And the things that we did carry on that trip, we did have a cell phone and solar charger because we had to be able to call people. We didn't use it along the way, but we had to use it to call people. Like when we finished a horse ride, we had a couple standing by pre-COVID when you could do this, and just we called them, said we're going to be in Fort Smith, you know, and we need you in the big airport in Montana, Billings. We need you in Billings on this day. So they went. We bought their airline ticket. They flew up, and our trailers were pre-staged, and so we had that coordination. We had the first aid kit on the river portions, and then the other thing we carried was a beacon. Every night we'd turn the beacon on. It would send a 10-digit grid coordinate to my wife Kathy and to my friend Jack's wife, so they knew every night where we were. So at least if something happened and they didn't hear from us, they could tell rescue where we were that night before. And then if you had something where you needed a life flight or medical emergency, it has a 911, boop, you just hit that and it goes right to the local emergency centers, and they could have come in and got us. But that's, you know, that's just common sense and smart. This is a hobby. This is not our life. And, you know, you have to have that stuff to keep your family informed of what's going on. Because again, it's you want to come home, you got to come home to a job and to a family. Those guys, different story back then. Yeah. We carried on the horseback ride and the rest of the journey, but mainly on the horseback ride, we had to carry a water purifier. When you're riding in Wyoming, it's checkerboard, BLM, private, looks just like a checkerboard. So the black squares are privately owned, the white squares are government land, and it's all grazed with cattle, and all the water is not drinkable. So we were literally filtering water out of a stream from me to you from cows urinating in it, but because you have no option, but the filters clean the water up. And then when you're on the Missouri River, we spent a lot of time communicating with the Missouri River paddlers, and that water is not drinkable. So on the keel boat, we had 5 5-gallon jugs that people along the way helped us fill up and take with us. The Bighorn River in Yellowstone was pretty clear. That was pretty drinkable. We drank it. Still here. So I didn't have any issues in the middle of the night running for the tree line, so it was okay. But we did take a water filter. That's the other thing. Thank you. Yep. Yes, sir.
So say you're out there by yourself or with just a couple other people, and you're hungry, you haven't eaten for a while, you see a significant sight of game animal, a deer. How do you utilize that deer? I'm assuming, like say this time of year, you'd only use part of it before it's spoiled.
So that is a great question, and you'd be surprised. So on the horseback ride, backing off, we tried to get permits in all the states that we were going to be in for subsistence hunting. Told them what the journey was, what we were doing. They all denied it. They said, you can shoot all the squirrels and rabbits you want, and I know why. There are none. Okay? We got one squirrel along the way. But with the meat, so we ended up taking, in the very beginning, about almost 40 or 50 pounds of meat. So with the pack horses, we had 2 buckets. One 2-gallon bucket that we made coffee in every morning, and then like a 2 or 3-gallon bucket that we made some kind of boiled soup or stew in, which, by the way, in the fur trade era, frying pans did not exist. They didn't fry bacon. They didn't fry their meat. Everything was done in a pot. And that was a copper pot, tin line copper. And so every morning when we packed up, the raw meat would get wrapped in wet cloths, put in that pot, covered with another cloth, put in the saddlebag, the pannier for the pack horse, and then at night when you stop, you'd build a tripod to hang your pot to cook off of, and you'd stack that meat on the top of that tripod, and at night the smoke would smoke it, and it would slowly cure it. And we were able to keep that meat and eat that meat for about 13 or 14 days. And it was 90 plus every single day. But the meat held for 13 days. The 14th day was pretty green. But one of the guys with us, Han Asmussen, he ate it anyways. He's got like a cast iron stomach. The rest of us were like, we're done, you know. But that's how you cut the meat. And you could shoot an animal in you know, by doing that every single night, you go 2 weeks. But the mountain men in the era, if you read Osborne Russell's journal, 9 Years in the Rocky Mountains, he's shooting game every single day. He didn't bother smoking or curing. He was shooting, getting fresh meat every single day. And then we carried dried food, cabbage, which lasts a couple of months, cheese, ginger, garlic, and we would eat that at night as well because we couldn't hunt. Other questions? You sure? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.